Now, there's a trust deficit in Tata Trusts, the very core of India's most admired homegrown business empire, the Tata Group. Now, at the center of it is Mehli Mistry, once a confidant, now at the center of the confrontation. Now, Mistry's term ends today, 28th of October, and the regular renewal has turned into what seems to be a power struggle, as his reappointment seems unlikely unless all trustees unanimously vote in favor of him. But Mistry is fighting back. He has also reportedly set conditions that if Venu Srinivasan has got a lifetime term at Tata Trusts, so should he. Now remember, Tata Trust controls as much as 2/3 of Tata Sons, and the trust decides who sits on the board of the mothership, the $350 billion Tata Group. Now, Noel Tata reportedly wants Mistry out. Now, this seems to be a dark reminder of the late Ratan Tata's boardroom and eventual courtroom battle with another Mistry, the late Cyrus Mistry. Now, the vote is to be cast today, and Mehli Mistry's fate hinges on potentially Noel Tata's trust in him. And if he is made to stay out, what are his options? Let's discuss that with Dr. Srinath, Sridharan, policy researcher and corporate advisor, joining us this morning. We also have Shriram Subramanian, the founder and chief researcher at InGovern. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time on this very important and the story which is going to develop today. Srinath, let me begin by asking you, this is more than just a trustee renewal issue, isn't it? It is about who controls the board of the mothership, the Tata Group itself.
Kartik, good morning. I think it's far greater trust about Tata Trust itself. I think as the governance norms are evolving, changing, power struggles always have happened. I mean, the human history shows that power struggles happen with almost every transition. And I'm calling it a transition because in the large, I think the footsteps of, let's say, JRD Tata and Ratan Tata, you don't have large leader who has stepped into that shoe. So in that sense, if you're looking at the, let's say, if I can loosely call it as the Parsi, let's say the trust deficit playing it out, it is also for the spirit of what Tata Trust stands for. It is not just about the legal aspect of it.
Right.
And you also have the other one where there are clamor for ensuring that Tata Sons gets listed.
That's right.
Let's not forget that it is also a regulatory breach as far as it's concerned. I mean, to a outsider like me, there was a deadline that RBI had given, and they could have applied for an exemption, which they did. But the deadline is over, so which means that they've breached the regulation, which is very unlike of Tata's. It has never breached anything in the past. But for some, let's say, here and there, whispers of controversies that they've been part of, including, let's say, the Radia tape and so on and so forth.
Right.
But coming back to this, I think it's a large trust deficit, and I don't think let's say the threat of Mr. Mistry is saying that in case he's not voted in, his vote for Mr. Venu Srinivasan has been conditionally given by him. I don't know whether the law would actually allow him that leeway, because when you vote, it's yes or no. You can't say yes or no subject to whatever happens within the next 10 days if I'm elected. And I think that's a legal interpretation. It will be interesting to see.
Absolutely. So I think one thing is pretty sure, that in case the vote is not cast in his favor today, then this boardroom drama is going to expand into a courtroom drama. And of course, we will be following that courtroom drama as well if it were to unfold. But Mr. Subramanian, any fracture in Tata Trust, is it also likely to cast a shadow on the other Tata Group companies by way of governance? Is there instability that today's vote could lead to in other group companies, as well as then, therefore, shareholder value?
Good morning. I don't think it will directly have impact on the operating companies, which are the 26 listed entities, as of now at least. But definitely the workings of Tata Sons could get impacted, because Tata Trust has a veto power on the board of Tata Sons. Two is any appointments, etc., have to be done at with the consent of Tata Trust. So from all these perspectives, if there is disruption at the Tata Trust, that could disrupt key decisions at
Tata Sons.
Tata Sons.
Right.
So especially if it probably not on a day-to-day basis, the running will not be affected. but strategic decisions and any investment decisions and the like could get affected.
So if I understand you correctly, Mr. Subramanian, you're saying that Tata Trust, any rocking of the boat at Tata Trust could potentially rock the boat eventually at Tata Sons, may or may not eventually rock the boat of other listed companies because Tata Sons is not listed, which is something that Srinath also just pointed out too. And as far as operations of independently listed Tata companies go, investors, shareholders have nothing to worry about. Is that right, sir?
Yes, you are right. I mean, shareholders of operating companies should not be worried at this juncture. Obviously, one needs to see how this pans out. If it goes to courts, if it gets very ugly, and all those could then impact key decisions and could sort of then take away investor confidence in the group itself.
All right. So, Srinath, let me bring you back. You were, in fact, just a few minutes ago talking about whether or not it is legally okay for Mehli Mistry to call for similar conditions as those for Venu Srinivasan's contract. But technically speaking, is Mehli Mistry wrong in calling for the same conditions? Because if one trustee, Venu Srinivasan, gets a lifetime term, why not Mr. Mistry himself?
See, Kartik, from the spirit of what he's saying, he could be very right. But unless the constitution of the trust allows such a vote, such a conditional vote, and more importantly, a qualitative condition, it is not a quantitative condition. It's like saying that I vote for you, but unless you vote for me tomorrow, my vote, which I gave yesterday, would be null and void. I mean, that doesn't happen at all unless the constitution already of the trust already allows for it. And so, which is why, from the spirit of the law, you vote yes or no, or you abstain. That's about it. There's nothing else available. So it will also be very interesting. I mean, just as a slightly divergent view, I think in a battle like this, and I'm using the word battle because it forms camps. And the reality is, even operating companies would be affected very strategically, not necessarily from the valuation or any business perspective, but simply because how do you know that a certain independent director or a group of independent directors today sitting on operating companies, to whose loyalty do they owe their role to? And I'm using the word owe their role because whatever we speak about independence of independence director, and it's a conversation I think Shriram and I have shared enough and had discussed enough on that.
Yeah.
Reality is, we will see camps if this plays out for a longer time, which is exactly what we saw a few years ago in the previous battle. And this is no different, whether it is the trust or the Sons. This is also the first time where the central government had actually called some of the key stakeholders to share its concerns. It has not happened in the past.
Absolutely. You're right. In fact, I want to take that argument a little forward, Srinath, and let me bring in Mr. Subramanian here, because what Srinath is also alluding to is this formation of camps and formation of favoritism and potentially, biases that could creep in. So in that context, over the long term, Mr. Subramanian, do you see a conflict of interest and transparency deficit? Because eventually, if it is the family and the friends of the family who decide how boards of independently listed group companies are formed, then there are likely to be biases and personal interests that could eventually creep in. You're saying there is nothing for shareholders to worry right now. Eventually, does it become a concern for shareholders?
No, that's what one has to see. Firstly, whether Mehli Mistry's reappointment today pans out or doesn't. If it doesn't happen, then what is the next course? Because then definitely the battle lines within the Tata Trust board would be drawn, I would think, especially if he doesn't take it lightly and if he views it very negatively.
Right.
And it's not also clear his supporters, which are other three board members, which is Pramit Zaveri, Zahangir, Darius Kambata, etc., whether they will change their stance or whether they will go with him and then they'll dig in their heels. So obviously then the subsequent impact is on Tata Sons itself, whether how Chandrasekaran is able to manage these stakeholders. As of now, it seems that he has been able to tide a very balanced act and able to sort of take it through. One has to see how that pans out.
Right. So how will that pan out, Srinath? What next for Mistry? Because, like Mr. Subramanian is saying, the vote will be cast today. And let's say the vote is not cast in his favor. Are we 100% sure of seeing a repeat of the courtroom drama with one Tata versus one Mistry unfold once again?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a mystery anymore, Kartik. I mean, in the past, we have seen that play out. But more interestingly for me, there is a large strategic angle to remember. If you say use the word independence for a boardroom, the reality is you can never have unanimous consensus. I mean, the days of tall leaders like J.R.D. Tata and Ratan Tata, they could actually, let's say, build consensus. And today, boardroom would have such differences. So ideologically, how is Tata Group going to nurture its board? Say, if every board were to have only consensus, how will they actually do business? Because the independence of independent director is actually having the ability to differ or disagree, and that I think that the spirit of governance or the moral uprightness that Tatas have always demonstrated, I think they will come back to the same spirit. So I think if it doesn't go Mr. Mistry's way today, I think he has only two options: either take it to a court of law or just let it die down. And I think the only person who might know will be him.
And final word from you, Mr. Subramanian. Fundamentally, do you think there is actually need now for all the stakeholders in Tata Trusts to reconvene, to look at Tata Sons, to eventually push for the listing of Tata Sons, which RBI has been pushing for in any case, and overall, just uncomplicate this structure where there's a trust which holds a large majority in the Sons and the Sons that hold a large majority in the listed companies? Is there need to simplify this entire corporate structure?
I mean, from an external observer perspective, I would think so, especially given the fact that SP Group, which is a large shareholder, unfortunately, has got caught in this because they have acted as a VCP fund, and when they need the cash and they are really crying for liquidity,
they are unable to exit.
To get the liquidity. So from that perspective, yes, the Tata Sons needs to be listed, but I don't think any of the members of the trust or even the board of Tata Sons wants it to be listed.
Right, of course, they don't want to be listed. They want to keep the family jewels within the family, but we will leave it at that for now. Srinath and Mr. Subramanian, thank you so much for your time. As always, pleasure having you here on News 9.